Our last but certainly not least speaker tonight is Kathy Denton. Kathy's working from the Competent Communicator Manual, project number 9, Persuade with Power. Her evaluator is Chief Jerry Paul.
Mr. Toastmaster, Kathy's objectives tonight are to persuade listeners to adapt your viewpoint or ideas or take some action, appeal to the audience interests, use logic and emotion to support your position, and avoid using notes.
Thanks, Jerry. A little bit about Kathy. She's got a master's in cybersecurity management from WashU. She's a data security strategist for Omega ATC. The title of her speech is a lengthy one, Payment Card Industry Compliance, Part 2, Monitoring, Log Parsing, and Alerts. Please welcome Kathy Denton.
Time?
10 minutes. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and most honorable guests. The last time we got together and talked about payment industry compliance, we had a fascinating topic. You may recall it was on vulnerability scanning. Well, tonight we have another fascinating topic, and it's about monitoring. So this is what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to introduce you some new guidance that came out from the Payment Card Industry Compliance Council just this week on log monitoring. It's an interesting topic because a lot of people don't really know much about it and how to do it properly. And we're going to talk about what the logs are. Let me ask you, how many people here do log monitoring? All right, so you're in for a treat. You're going to learn a few things that you may not have known already, except for Adam, because he already knows. And we're going to talk about what log monitoring PCI DSS controls there are that attend to this. PCI DSS is just payment card industry, and it's data security standards. Then we're going to talk about the challenges of log monitoring. There are many. Bear with me, I'm going to try to pop through it fairly quickly because we have a lot to cover. And security events that must be monitored. And then we're going to talk about planning for log monitoring. And finally, how to do effective log monitoring. So what are the logs? A security log is basically something created by a computer or a computing device that logs everything that happens on that machine. It's happening on all your machines, all your computers in the background. This particular little shot here is taken from just a basic home computer. And most people don't know about them, they don't pay attention to them, but they're very important. And really I'm gearing this toward businesses. Businesses really need to be monitoring this. Payment card industry compliance mandates that businesses that accept credit cards monitor their network, monitor their computers, and monitor their logs. So in payment card industry compliance, there are over 400 controls that businesses have to adhere to for payment card industry compliance. Of course, your businesses that have more transactions, over 1 million, get audited more than the ones that are smaller. But the smaller ones still have to adhere to these rules. And of those, 63 of them are related to monitoring and alerts. Clearly, I don't have time to go into all of those today, so I'm just going to touch on the number one biggest one, which is the security requirement that you actually do the monitoring. And it has a sub-requirement that when you're doing the monitoring and you find something, that you actually take action on it. Which sounds like that would be common sense, but there are, again, a lot of challenges involved in making it happen properly. So, of the challenges, number one, time to detect is way too long. The averages in the industry are running from weeks to months, which is probably better than years, but it can happen that things can take years to be found. One of the common ways that you read about in the news when a company gets breached, how did they find out they got breached? Because the customers had their identity stolen, reported it to the police. When the forensics experts got in there and they tracked to figure out where did all these people lose their identity, where did they shop that was in common, they track it back to the store that it happened at. Well, that's not the way you want it to happen. Sometimes it can be going on for years before they even realize it. No, you want to catch it quick, as fast as possible, and prevent it from happening. The security resources are limited is the next #1 challenge. There aren't enough security experts out there, and even the ones that are there are still learning, and you learn every day in this business. Luckily, that is improving tremendously. It used to be a lot of the security was handed down through government channels, and they kept everything hush-hush. Now they're sharing a lot more information. A lot of universities are beginning to teach this field. Or others revolve around the growing logs. If you can picture yourself trying to read through a log that has thousands of lines in it and pick out one that's important, well, clearly that can't be done manually. There are many devices that are creating the logs, and they're huge. So you need to automate the process. So these are the security events that must be tracked. And they include, of course, access to cardholder data, the administrator's actions, all the log-ons, log-offs, audit trail access. You want to make sure your audit trails are secure, invalid access attempts. And an interesting one with that is you look for multiple invalid attempts within a minute. You might see 5 invalid logon attempts in a minute, you know it's a machine doing it. Then you'll also look at changes to accounts, escalation of privileges. Did someone come in as a regular user and get escalated to an administrator? That's a red flag right there. Initialization, really stopping or pausing the logs is something that you need to look for. And then creation and deletion of system level objects. So in planning for log monitoring, this is a really cool thing. This document that came out from the payment card industry is a wonderful document and goes into all of this in good detail, so it'll really help you if you haven't been doing this already. You need to identify the high-level alerts, and they talk about identifying high-level alerts based on your risk management profile. But I would like to clarify that you also have to consider your auditor. The auditor is going to come in and they're going to tell you you need to be alerting on the items that I just showed you in the prior screen. So you have to remember that as well. You want to identify your potential log sources, which logs are you going to collect, gather, and store. Document the log's characteristics. Different manufacturers have different formats in their logs. Windows formats are different than Linux formats, and every vendor may have their own formats. So your payment card industry vendors who sell you the little credit card zones that you scan with, those have logs, and each vendor has a different one. Go Barcodes is going to be different from Veriphones, and so on. So you have to learn those formats. Then you need to prioritize your log sources, but I'd also say prioritize the alerts that you get so you know which ones to act on first. And in preparation, you need to identify the tools that you're going to use. And quite frankly, most small businesses do not have the capacity to do this. And if you're running a business with one IT person, there's no possible way that you can meet PCI compliance. And that's because a lot of the regulations require that the person who is doing the administration is not the person who is doing the monitoring. If you do not have the capacity to have at least 2 IT people, then you need to hire a company like Omega or another security company to help you do this. And when it comes to the tools, the security companies have the tools in place already. And then you'll establish your central repository. Data logs must be retained for 365 days to meet PCI compliance. Most people aren't doing it. What I hear my customers frequently say is, I'll ask them, do you maintain the logs when it's a new customer coming on? And they'll say, we keep them. Don't know how long, and we never look at them. We never do anything with them because they just don't know what to do with them. That's where a security company can help you out a lot. And we mentioned you need to secure your audit trails. So in performing effective log monitoring, you're going to collect and analyze the data, and you need to establish a baseline. The baseline is what's normal every day in your business. How many logons are expected? If you have 100 users and you're getting 500 logons, something's wrong. And there are many categories of averages, how much data is coming, how much data is going on a regular basis. Once you know what's regular, you can alert on what's irregular. And you're going to define your rules, configure your automated alerts, which I love doing. It's extremely complicated, but it's very fun. In that stuff, you're looking at all the information coming in, you're excluding the things that you don't need to worry about, such as this application is running. Well, that application runs every day, so I don't need to alert on that. But I do need to alert when I get that new administrator that's been added to the system if I haven't gotten an approval already. And of course, you're going to validate the event. So when the alerts come in, you need to check them, make sure that they are in fact someone doing something that they shouldn't be doing rather than a false positive, and you're going to respond to incidents. It's all fascinating and interesting. This particular topic is a whole nother day event because there's a lot to do when you're responding to incidents. So, in summary, log monitoring is required for payment card industry compliance. You need to plan for your log monitoring. You need to do it effectively. And if you haven't done it before, this document from the payment card industry is an excellent one. If you have any questions, because we don't have time tonight, just see me after the meeting. Thank you.